Some big new revelations from the White House. This is just hours ago about the mistakes that led to the Christmas Day terror plot coming dangerously close to succeeding. What they are conceding now is there were a number of blunders tracking the suspected bomber. They didn't realize how big a threat the U.S. was facing from the small chapter of al-Qaeda in Yemen believed to be involved in the plot. Listen.
In the intelligence that we have acquired over the past several years, it's been rather aspirational. It has said things, it has promoted a certain view as far as bringing the fight to us, but all of their activities, at least that we were focused on, were happening in Yemen. In hindsight now, and 2020 hindsight always gives you a much better opportunity to see it, we saw the plot was developing, but at the time we did not know, in fact, that they were talking about sending Mr. Abdul Muttalib to the United States.
Underestimating al-Qaeda in Yemen is one of the conclusions, but there are others. There was a failure to assign anybody to follow up on the threat, even with the information they had. Shortcomings on the watch list kept Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalib's name from causing anybody's radar to go up until he was already in the air, headed for Detroit. And on top of all of that, an initial search of the suspect's name used the wrong spelling. And that's just what we're learning from the unclassified version of the report available to the public. And we're going to bring in two people right now who were part of who are very familiar with all of these details and in dealing with al-Qaeda. Ambassador John Negroponte is a former director of national intelligence under President George W. Bush. Fawaz Gerges is a professor of international affairs and Middle Eastern studies at Sarah Lawrence University. Welcome to you both. Mr. Ambassador, administration officials had told us last night that the American public would find this report in its glory pretty shocking. What in it did you find most surprising?
Well, first of all, you used the phrase in the lead-up here that the system is broken, and I don't think that's really true. And I think in the statement the White House issued today, they made clear that there have been a lot of successes since the reforms took place in 9/11. So, frankly, as John Brennan said, with hindsight is 20/20 vision. We've had this terrorist now in custody for a couple of weeks' time, so we've learned the narrative of what he was plotting to do. So, sure, it looks a bit shocking looking retrospectively. But I didn't find it too surprising, and I think it's fortunate that, we dodged this particular bullet.
But I just want to, obviously we all feel that way, but I just want to clarify here, given all of the many, many sort of warning signs that were apparently there along the way, you don't find this to be
Well, there was noise in the system. Well, I think concerning, of course, and it was a near miss. But I think that, there was noise in the system. There was the ratcheted up threat from al-Qaeda in the Gulf. And there was word of an effort to carry out some plot against the homeland. But I don't think there was anything that specifically would cause this man's name to automatically pop out.
But noise in the system, the guy's father went to our embassy and warned. Right. I mean, isn't that a little more than just sort of like trying to decipher a noise in the system?
Right, that's probably the most disturbing part, although this is somebody who had no terrorist record in the past. So all I'm saying is when you're looking at this kind of information in real time, there are always ambiguities and judgment calls that need to be made, and we missed this particular one, but I do believe there was a lot of ambiguous information.
Fawaz, listening to the president today, what was your take? Do you think he gets it, that they're focused in the right direction and in the right place?
He does. I mean, here is a president who's very reflective. He says himself there was a systemic failure in the system. He's willing to criticize his own appointments, his own administration. But at the end of the day, there is no absolute security. There is no absolute security. All systems break down. And I think I agree there are a great deal of ambiguities, contradictions, difficulties. But here is really, it's very refreshing, very reassuring. The president, the commander-in-chief, he says he expects security measures to be ironclad, he is willing to take responsibility for what has happened.
But Ambassador, let me ask you about some of the specifics. Obviously, the whole point of intelligence sharing after September 11th was the redundancy to stop things from falling through the cracks. And in this case, multiple agencies knew about the threat. Nobody took responsibility necessarily for following through. I know you think that you know, it could have been a lot worse, I guess, but the president did outline some additional steps that are going to be taken now. Do you think that goes far enough to try to close these holes?
Well, yeah, I would hope so. I certainly think it's a good thing that he's announced these measures. I think that clearly there's going to be a tightening up of what's done. And I think that everybody up and down the system now is going to be more vigilant. And I suspect the president himself is going to become more engaged in overseeing this entire process. And I think that is to the good as well. He's going to be more of a national security-oriented president. He's taking his role, I think, as commander-in-chief more intensely.
Stand by for a second. I want to take a quick break, but I do want to ask you about something, Ambassador, that you said this morning, that you think this possibly could be part of a larger plot still unfolding. We'll talk about that when we come back. And also a possible major shakeup in late-night television that we're going to tell you more about. Jay Leno reportedly being looked at to take Conan O'Brien's spot on NBC. We'll have the latest on that as well. Stay with us. We'll be right back.